Let's talk about, Brian, another thing that people think will change as their income changes or as their wealth changes. They think that all of a sudden, if I made more money, if I had more resources, then I'd figure out the money thing. I would have it all straightened out. Well, unfortunately, rich people still aren't good with the money. That can be a dark side. Just because you have a higher income or even a higher net worth does not suggest that you are fundamentally good at the financial decisions you're making.
Yeah, I think this is, I don't know if it's an American tendency, but it's definitely something where as people, lifestyle creep is a real thing. People let their lives expand even beyond what they get in pay raises. And you would think, because the old Stanford study that's controversial, $75,000. So as soon as people get to $100,000, because if that's stability where you can pay your bills, $100,000, $150,000, $200,000, man, you must be great with money at that point. The data doesn't necessarily show that.
No, it doesn't show that at all. Having an high income doesn't exclude someone from being bad with money. Because if you look at these stats, 38%, almost 4 out of 10 households that make over $100,000 admitted to carrying credit card debt. Like not using credit cards, actually carrying debt on a month-over-month basis. And 22% of those surveyed cited vacation and entertainment as a primary reason for that. So it wasn't because they were trying to figure out how to make the ends meet or they were trying to figure out how to put groceries on the table. It was because they were making lifestyle decisions. So even though they have a higher income, they have not mastered making those decisions necessary to actually be good with money.
Well, so I love it when you see intersection or what with numbers, how they change. This has $100,000 and 38%.
Yep.
I thought it was interesting. In the show notes, we have 1 of 3 Americans with credit cards. This is so it's the same data point, but it's now the income's $150,000,
even
still
higher.
a third. So even though these people made 50% more income, it was still close to a third could not pay their credit cards off.
It's so frustrating. And what's ultimately happening here, I think as incomes increase and as your lifestyle begins to creep, the pressure and the reality of trying to keep up with the Joneses becomes more and more and more tangible. And you start to feel this push. Okay, my friends, they went on this vacation. Now I need to go on this vacation. My neighbor, they drive this automobile. I need to drive this automobile. And what you do is you get sucked into this trap of fundamentally, even though you can afford the decisions, you're not actually making wise financial decisions.
Well, I think this draws light to an adage that I always thought was horrible advice that was around during the 90s and 2000s was go buy the cheapest house on the nicest street. It was kind of a stretch goal so you could build this wealth up into a really nice house, even though you might be the poorest person on the street. There is so much research that has come out that has shown that if you are the poorest person amongst your peer group or the people you hang out with, you will likely be a lot less happy. So don't fall in that trap of assuming being the poorest person or the smallest house on your street is going to be a good thing. Yes, you might have more home equity because you're on this nice street, but your quality of life will be diminished.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is even at these higher incomes, there is still this lack of understanding with how money works. A study done by the What's Next Median Analytics Corporation found that 36% of households making over $250,000 still say that they live paycheck to paycheck. Now,
that's crazy.
There's some feedback that maybe they don't understand what paycheck to paycheck means, but think about even what that suggests. Households making over $250,000 cannot accurately discern, am I living paycheck to paycheck or am I not living paycheck to paycheck? Because we would argue once you begin to get in those income echelons, you ought to know money well enough that you know exactly what you have, where it's at, and what it is doing for you. It should not be a question. And yet here we are, 4 out of 10 families don't have that figured out at these higher incomes.
I would like to, because I want to pivot and turn it more into an optimistic discussion. How do you actually do this better? And kind of the first thing is if you can start thinking big picture with your money and even putting some boundaries on your behaviors, because we talked about lifestyle creep, keeping up with the Joneses. How easy would it be if you actually made those good habits easy, made the bad habits hard by creating like automated behaviors? Maybe every time you got a pay raise, 60% of it went to increase your investments, 40% went to lifestyle. Those type of things, if you took a big picture of where you want to be in the long term, I think you'd be in a much better place.
Yeah, they have this view on, I'm not just focused on how do I get from this week to next week or this month to next month. They do have those longer term goals. They do think big picture, wide angle. And one of the things that we see really successful people do well is they don't continue to move the goalpost. As they do focus on the big picture, they allow that big picture to have some boundaries. They don't say, okay, well, I want to be in this neighborhood. Okay, well, once I get in this neighborhood, well, then I want to be in that one. And then I want to have that home. And then I want to drive that car. They recognize, okay, what are the things that I truly value? What are the things that actually are require me to spend money on or save for or try to accomplish? And how do I focus exclusively on those things and not get lost focusing on things that do not matter to impress people that I do not care about?
Well, I think a way of putting this is focus on what's enough. Knowing, because you said know who you are.
Yep.
Know how you're comfortable in your skin. I mean, I think you will get to a point as you start having more financial success, you could go buy the bigger house.
Sure.
You could easily afford the more luxurious car. But is it really going to make you any happier? Are you going to enjoy your life more? Or you go look around one day and go, maybe what I would truly value is being able to own my time instead of the nicer stuff. So just make sure you kind of spend some time contemplating and even making, that's why a net worth statement every year, also having good communication with your spouse about goals and long-term objectives. If you can put those things together and actually create a plan, you will be much more set up to understand what's enough and where contentment, happiness, and fulfillment actually live.
Another thing I think that you can do as you begin to move up on income and as your wealth trajectory begins to change is continue to invest wisely. So often people, as they get into higher incomes, as they enter into new places, I got to be more sophisticated. I got to be more complicated. I got to figure out something that no one else figured out. There is nothing wrong with being a high income individual that still follows the financial order of operations. Brian, you have the thing. Can you show it to them?
I got it right here.
It's 9 tried and true steps that even if you make $250,000, $500,000 a year, it will keep you on the right path of building wealth. So don't allow yourself to get sucked into the venture capital deals or the private equity deals, the dumb doctor deals. Well, yeah, they may make sense, but don't just assume that what got you to the place that you are at right now is not still the same thing that can take you to the place you ultimately want to be in the future.
Yeah, there's entire industries that are set up, we call them the dumb doctor deals, whereas you get to a level of income, you're like, well, man, this is what rich people must do. That's part of the marketing brochure. Just be careful, know how wealth is actually created, know how investing actually works. And if somebody tries to spin your head and get you so confused that you don't even know which way is up anymore, it's okay to hit the pause button and make sure you understand exactly what you're doing with your investments.
I love it.